Welcome to Corporate Dropout Conversations, where our goal is to inspire, inform, and empower you to take control of your life. I am really excited to continue to bring dynamic conversations with dynamic people about issues, about career, about business, about life in general. And today I have an amazing sister from another mister, Wonder Woman, someone who is doing amazing things in the tech space and continuing to make ways for other people, right? At the end of the day, we have what we have in terms of our career opportunities, our business opportunities, and our life is an opportunity to create a way, a path, a vision, an example for others. So I want to introduce to some, but definitely the corporate dropout community, Miss Kristol Johnson. Kristol, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Robert. Such a warm welcome. I'm so glad to be here and really glad to have this discussion today. So I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. We will be honest. We had such a great conversation. We had to come back and do it again because there's so many nuggets, Kristol, that you have been dropping. And a little bit about Kristol before she introduces herself. She is a dynamic leader, again, in the tech space that has had an amazing career, built an amazing life that's obviously been with some lessons and some mistakes, but also some great moves along the way, mentors, coaches, so on and so forth. So today, as we get in this conversation, I know you are going to want to take notes, whether writing them down or using your note app on your phone, because she is full of the gems. So Kristol, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I can do that. So first and foremost, I'm a mother of two amazing children. I have a 21-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son. I'm a writer, a dancer, a pianist. I use that term loosely. And a 2020 COVID-19 inspiring artist. I just started sketching recently in my spare time with being quarantined. I pride myself in being a person of compassion, a beacon of hope and inspiration to people in any life that I encounter on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, what I call myself is an encourager. I believe in meeting people where they're at, helping them to become the best person that they are, the best version of themselves, and then equipping them to do the same for others. Everyone has a gift, and life's about mastering that gift daily.
And I know that is truly who you are. We reconnected. We met about 3 or 4 years ago now at a DFW National Black MBA event where I was facilitating a discussion on owning your narrative. And I'll never forget, you were one of the most engaged participants. You had great questions. You had great retorts, right, on some of the things that we were talking about. And I knew, well, had I knew then what I know now, and the fact that you are who you are, I don't even know. I'm just so amazed and honored that we've been able to reconnect. And you did something that you just spoke about, equipping people. I again thank you for introducing me to our friend in common.
Yes.
With Career Mingle and just recommending me for an opportunity. And that really speaks to who you are as a person. So I want to honor you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a delight, right? When you've got people in business, especially Black-owned businesses, and they're trying to get their feet off the ground. That's what we do. We network. There's power in your network, and there's power in everyone having a chance to grow and to learn and to get their platform out there. So very, very happy to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing just to have learned even more about you since we've been able to reconnect and see that we have a lot of overlapping experiences, a lot of similar philosophies, and quite frankly, a very similar career experience. And by the way, Kristol is, I like to call her Wonder Woman because she is working on so many amazing things, not just in her amazing day job, again, in the tech space, but this is a future author, right? Future writer, future speaker, future coach. Because I tell Kristol, all like just learning what I've learned about you, your story that you're going to share a little bit of today is so inspiring. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you just go ahead. You're fine. You're perfectly fine.
Listen, the truth is easy. I tell people all the It's not flattery, it's factual, right? And that's the beauty of you and who you are as a person. And so when we were talking a few weeks ago, we had just this random conversation about kind of how we've gotten to where we are, me as the corporate dropout, you doing again what you're doing in the tech space, but also building some amazing things. And we talked about our journeys and how they are varied and diverse and not just a straight path.
Right.
You said something, and that's what's going to be the basis of our conversation today, about how there are times in our careers, and I'm not going to I'm going to just not say it. I'm going to let you introduce the philosophy really, but there are times in our careers and our lives, quite frankly, where we get a certain feeling, and what we do with that feeling can be a great benefit to our life, right? Or it can be a distraction and slow us down. So right. Without any further ado, Kristol, tell us what that philosophy is, and let's talk.
We're going to talk about the benefits of boredom, right? I've been in the tech industry for 20 years now, and I really didn't truly understand the power and the influence that it was going to have in our everyday lives today, right? It changes very fast. The industry is multifaceted in terms of career opportunities. You can be in development, engineering, coding, sales, marketing, you name it. And I like to kind of say the industry picked me versus me picking the industry, because it was at that pace that I like to live, which is very fast paced, and we're just closely aligned. And so I thrived in that space. Once I kind of found that space, that's where I really, really loved it. And I kept finding jobs within that industry because it kept moving, it kept going fast. But what else happened, which a lot of people don't realize, is that you get into a role and sometimes you can easily find yourself bored. If you're a fast-paced person, your job may not move as fast as you and your creativity and your mind moves. And so I think the first thing for us to do is define what boredom is, right? What is it? It's really being uninterested or unsatisfied by a certain activity. It's normally sparked by some low mental stimulation, right? Or you may have a poor perception of time, which for me, that was it a lot of times when I was younger. You get into a job in your early 20s, and in 6 months, you're like, I'm ready for the next thing. And so you have a very poor perception of time and how long it takes for you to build your knowledge, your skills, and to advance. And so there is a benefit of boredom, especially in your career, but also in your life, if you actually take the time to recognize those signs and then do something with it.
Yeah, again, the conversation that has led to this conversation, which is exactly what you were talking about, was us understanding that there are periods and phases of our career. Either we wanted to go really fast, or we were slowing down. It's about finding that middle ground and understanding that when I'm not feeling as challenged or engaged, that's a great opportunity. You know, they say an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Playground. Mm-hmm.
Right? So finding ways to get busy so that you can build something versus just wasting that opportunity and that time. And so tell us about maybe when you begin in your career to use the benefits, use the boredom to your benefit, and how did that translate into opportunities for your growth?
Okay. So the first thing that I realized now looking back, I started to kind of jot down after we talked, like, what were the signs? What were the signs of boredom? What were those things that made me say, honestly, what's next? And what ended up happening, as I look back, I realized I no longer enjoyed the work that I was doing. So I go from enjoying the work to enduring the work. I find myself seeking other ways to help people, right? Because I have a lack of creativity in the role. So I've kind of come to the point where all my creativity is spent and we're maxed out, we're tapped out. There's nothing left for me to think of, to bring to the table, because this is the max. And then I end at the end of the day with more day than work, right? So then I started realizing I'm getting my work done in 5 hours or 6 hours, and my mind is just waiting for the next thing, and there's nothing else for me to do. The job's gotten easy for me.
Right.
And then at times I start comparing myself to other people, saying, I can do better than the person a level or two above me. And that's because I'm bored. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to find creative ways to do something. So those are the beginning signs of boredom for me that made me really ask myself, what next?
Well, just want to interject if you don't mind. I love what you said about it. Also, the boredom led to comparison, right? Realistic and unrealistic comparisons, right? You're looking 2, 3 levels and saying, if I was a CEO, I would do this, or if I were my boss, I would do that. But are you really even showing up in your role as who you are to maximize that experience? And so I want to pause there and see if you have anything you'd like to elaborate, because our listeners, I experience that with my clients that I coach. We want to be 10 steps ahead, but we've not taken the most critical and important first 3 steps, whatever they may be. So how important is it was it for you, and would you say for others, is to align and adjust your perspective so that when you do experience the boredom, you can use it to your benefit and not just, potentially a derailer in your career?
Right. I think the key is once you recognize those signs, especially comparison, I think that's one of the last ones, because you've kind of tapped out on all the other areas. If you can't help someone else and get your creativity in, if you can't bring things, once you get there, you need to really and truly use your boredom to allow it to spark curiosity, right? And start thinking of other things. If you own your own curiosity and realize, okay, I'm curious and I'm comparing myself to someone else, what does that mean internally? Like, what is it saying about myself? How am I internalizing it? Obviously, I think I know what to do as a CEO. So let me be curious and think, what are the things that I need to do to be a CEO, and define those steps and outline those steps? Then you'll end up sparking creativity, which if you indulge yourself in that, you'll outline those steps, and then you'll lead yourself to challenging yourself. So then it's like, if I want to be that CEO, what are the steps to get there? You know what? His path was this. Maybe the next role for me is level 2. And you'll challenge yourself. You'll look for that role, and then you'll apply yourself within that role. And once you accept those challenges, you'll automatically be in that form of change. And you're destined to change who you are as a person, to grow. And then once you take on that change and you're in that new role, you're going to live courageously, confidently, and you just keep doing that. You repeat that cycle over and over and over again. And then in 10, 15 years, you'll look back and you'll be the CEO. And that's because you've continued to rinse and repeat and challenge yourself every single time you got bored.
I love that, rinse and repeat, because it is a repeatable, you want to have a repeatable process.
Right.
And if we look back over our career, over our lives, there are repeatable processes that we do subconsciously versus owning them consciously. It's like working out. If I want to get into shape, I have to do the repeatable process of eating right, working out, spending time with, my friends and my communities outside versus inside, right? So I love the rinse and repeat. So your career is storied, right? You've done so many things. Walk us through, if you will, your career, your progression, some lefts and some rights that were a result of your boredom and curiosity.
Most definitely. So very early on in my career, I was on a team that covered about 5 different functions within that one operational team. So we all kind of had our hand in the pot, but putting it all together made sense. I was hired to do one thing, and probably within the first 6 to 7 months, I had mastered that role. I was in my early 20s, and I was thinking, what next? I can do the world, right? And what I ended up seeing that I needed to do was leverage myself. And at that time, I decided to learn every single function in that role within that organizational team. I had no idea that I was really and truly learning more about the business by solving my own boredom problem. But that's really and truly what I was doing. I was getting a little bit of a nugget here, there, and all these different places to scale and to expand my knowledge about the business. But it actually allowed me to fuel my career. That boredom allowed me to fuel my career. And as I look back, I'm a person that needs to be creative. And so when I feel my creativity being limited, or I'm not able to, really and truly allow it to grow in the environment, then I kind of get itchy And I'm like, what's next? I gotta go. So it was really great because doing that allowed me to move and progress within the organization because of my work experience. Once you start getting those little check marks of different departments or different things that you've worked on and different people that you've worked with, you have that ability to move within the business because you've got people who know who you are. But I want to be very, very cautious about career advancement. For some people, that's exactly what they want to do. And for other people, they are happy exactly where they are. And that's 100% fine from a work perspective. But this applies in your personal life with your passion. So if you are fine and content where you are at your job, that's okay. But you still have a gift and you have a passion and you need to fuel that and you need to drive towards that externally, right? So everyone has a compromise and you may not want to be the CEO of a certain company, but you still can be the CEO of your own life.
And that, again, that was really how Corporate Dropout was birthed. It's you becoming CEO of YOU. So that language, that thought process, that philosophy that you're talking about is truly owning your talent. It's owning your life, really, and saying, this, and I also appreciate the distinction between working a job and being satisfied with this job versus, people that want to grow and do different things. They're perfectly fine. And we need those personalities to coexist and to move businesses forward. But I love the separation between purpose and passion, right? Because, people say, pursue your passion, but I can have 100 passions. I can have 50 things that I'm in. You introduced in your introduction, you talked about, all the many wonderful things you have the capacity to do and are interested in, right? But there's this thing that you're actually purposed to do, that when you leverage the boredom that leads to curiosity, you can find it. Can you share with us when you identified and how do you view passion versus purpose as, a boss, doing great things?
So I think purpose is the foundation for your passion, right? And so to your point, you may have a lot of different passions. I like to write. I like to dance. I like to play the piano. But at the end of the day, and talk to a lot of people. I love talking as well. At the end of the day, the source of all those passions is my purpose, which is people and encouragement. And so I use those different areas of passion to encourage people. When I show up at a dance class, I'm there to dance because that serves me, but I also know I'm serving other people by connecting and getting with them. And you find out different people and you see people in a different light and you get to know different people culturally, because dance brings us together, but then everyone else has their own story. And then I ask myself, how can I encourage this person here in dance? And how can I encourage someone else as I write? How can I encourage someone else as I sit down and play the pianos to connect with them through a language that transcends words, right? So the purpose is that foundation. You show up with that, with your different passions that you do every single day.
Oh, man, Kristol, this is such a mouthful. We're going to have to do 3 parts of this conversation because so far the benefits of boredom that I've captured just from our discussion, the increase in knowledge, right? You're trying different things. I love what you mentioned about learning every part of that organization, even in your current role. So there's a knowledge benefit. The second thing you talked about was relationships. When you get bored and you're curious, you can build relationships with different people as you're learning the business, because there are different people that serve different functions in the business. And just the way you broke down the passion being the purpose being the foundation, and you actually are, every day that you show up is the purpose. And that dance piece is so powerful because I tell people all the time, do something good for yourself so that you can do something great for others.
That's all right.
You doing the dance class is good for you. You showing up and being energized and enthusiastic and engaging is something great for others because they need you.
Exactly. You're 100% right. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of presence. and the power of their presence and what they bring to an organization or to a group or to the community, even to your own home when you get home, the power of your presence. When you walk in, what does your demeanor, what does your body language, right? Emotional intelligence is very important in the workplace and at home. Self-awareness is very critical. And so there's power in your presence, and there's power in being somewhere. Even if you don't think you feel like being there and you don't want to be there, sometimes you show up and you see the response of someone else like, oh my gosh, you're here. And then you realize your value and your worth that you bring to these different areas of other people's lives. And it's critical and it's valuable.
It's more than critical and valuable, as you put it. It's purposeful. Going back to the original statement, it's purposeful. When you show up, it is purposeful. So as an African-American woman showing up in the tech space and having navigated different rooms and been at different levels, actually, I'm going to come back to that piece, but where you are today, right? How many other roles due to your boredom and curiosity have you had the opportunity to experience? And again, how can you inspire, inform, our listeners with, because they're going to say, how did you do all of that? Like how do they do that? Because that's the key.
So I've probably had, the current tech company that I'm with, I've probably had like 9 roles in the span of almost 18 years. And early on, doing a different job, scaling myself, challenging myself, allowing my boredom to fuel my career, it didn't really translate into increase by way of a position or even by way of pay, right? I just increased my brand and my professionalism and my knowledge. And I didn't even know then that that's what I was doing, but I was. But what it ended up doing is translating to a wider network of people and exposure to a lot of different departments. And having that exposure was going to allow me to be able to kind of be that professional brand investor in my own life, and also search for investors in myself, right? So as I scaled.
Wait. Wait. You just introduced a whole new role that we own and that others become a part of, a professional brand investor.
Yes.
And you seek others to invest. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So, and it's so weird, right? Your brand is stock. It's stock for yourself, stock for your company. What you want to do is you want people to want to buy into you, right? You want them to. And so early on in my career, I basically was on that IPO hunt. I needed people to believe in me. So each new project, each new support of a corporate initiative, each new idea that I shared, even if I wasn't going to get the credit, added to who I was as a person. And so when I was really ready to take on that real big role, to sell myself, to go for that job, I had plenty of people saying, yeah, I want her, because I'd already built my brand. And that's what you have to do. I'll stop and pause for a second, just in case you want to say.
I'm in awe, and I love the PBI, and I was an IPO, right? Early in your career, and it doesn't have to be early, when you could make a shift in your career.
Yeah.
You can have multiple IPOs in your career and your business life. And I love the way you position that. We are a brand that has to invest first in ourselves. Your biggest investor is yourself initially. Yes. And then you want all of the big deep pockets to invest in your success. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you do that, right, when you take on these challenges, when you scale yourself with boredom, with peers, with leaders, they may actually move a little bit faster than you in your career. I know I saw that a lot. You're like, why am I not getting that opportunity? Why isn't that happening? I still feel like I'm a little stuck, or maybe you're going lateral, so you're not getting the titles that other people are getting as they move up. But the benefit of really and truly being your personal brand investor and then reaching out and taking that role is once you apply, they know who you are. Your brand goes before you. Your name goes before you. Your story, your work ethic. And they can say, she's good for the business and she's going to be good for me. And that's really, really critical.
Well, you know, what you said reminded me of my own experience, especially as you think about horizontal moves and being your biggest investor. I remember about 7 or 8 years ago, I had made multiple moves because using your PBI, I was an IPO, and then I began to receive investors into my development, into my success. And I made a decision to switch lanes and start a new IPO, if you will, right? And make a move. And my leader at the time, who I still respect to this day, she said something to me that I'll never forget. She said, you know, that move, and the move was to move back to Atlanta. I had relocated to Chicago to take some amazing opportunity that led to other amazing opportunities. And so when I told her, hey, you know, I've been here for a few years, you know, we've done great work together, but it's time for me to move back. My family's there, ... She said, that's a junior move.
Wow.
Woo!
Wow.
When she said it, I'll be honest, it was hurtful and disappointing because I felt she was someone that I could trust with my most vulnerable truth, right? And I know that it didn't diminish her leadership ability. It didn't diminish her credibility with me. But what it helped me to realize is that, using your PBI analogy, when people have invested, right, and you have repaid and returned the investments back to them, if you decide to do something different, it shakes them because you are a cash cow, if you will. You
exactly
benefits. It's like Amazon saying we're going to move out of the $1 billion space we've created and reopen Blockbusters, right?
Right.
But if that's the move that Bezos decides to make, he has his own rationale.
Right.
So to your point about making lefts and going right versus always vertical, there are going to be people that don't support your decisions, and it's not because they think less of you, quite frankly. They actually think so much of you that they want you to be a main character in the story. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And I think a lot of people kind of get trapped, right? Sometimes with people who believe so much in them and give them the words that they want, and they stay. And someone who does that, right, it's more about them than it is about you. They've placed you as a tool in their own personal success, right? And so sometimes your absence may shine a light of lack in their own, right, in their own career, their own knowledge and expertise, because you've been that, you know, supplemental person to help them look good, right? And I learned early on, just being in sales, right, that you got to risk it on yourself. Like, salespeople wake up every morning and say, I believe so much in myself, right, that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring it back, bring home the bacon. You're saying, I'm not only confident in this company, I'm not only confident in the product, but I'm confident in myself. And so we all need to wake up every day with the confidence of our own brand and what we bring to the table and our own output, and be willing, like you did, to take that chance, right? And to acknowledge that this is for me, and this is for me for a certain period of time, and now it's no longer for me. And it's okay.
It's more than okay. You are just you have a way with words, and just relating, and that's why more people need to hear from you. Again, as an African American woman, you know, doing amazing things in tech, as a Black woman doing amazing things, as a mother, as you mentioned, as a daughter, you know, as a friend, all the multiple roles that you play, yet you still are this confident, amazing woman, and that is important for you to hear, right? That resonates, because the risks that you took to go left and right versus always wanting to go up, some people would have stayed left or right, or, you know, even gone down. You know, we've seen people that said, I'm just going to take this to get my foot in the door, or I can't find what I want, but yet you have all these certifications, you have all these degrees, you have all this experience. But what I see you exuding and always exude is confidence. And confidence opens doors, Kristol,
Well,
right?
that's true. And there are some things that you can't teach, which is drive
Mhm.
and determination. You either got it or you don't,
Oh,
right? So you can get, a lot of times people get a lot of certifications to help speak for them, but then you don't see it in their output, in their physical output, in their energy and what they bring. So they have enough determination to get a sheet of paper that they think will walk for them. But you got your own two legs and you got to walk on your own, right? And you have to be willing in your career to advocate for yourself. That was one of the things I didn't realize, but I saw within sales organizations that they would show up and they would advocate. I deserve this, and here is why, and I'm gonna prove to you why. And so once I realized that, I started changing my own personal narrative, and I began advocating for myself. And I was able to do it because I'd already done the work and I'd already built my brand and I had built that confidence within myself. And I could go to my boss and say, I need more money. I have the time. I have the talent. I need you to help me find the treasure, which is the job. And so you start asking them to help you and to be that sponsor for you, to look out for you. And people will when they know you're a good employee, right? And so my boss at that time appreciated my work ethic and my value, and he vouched for me when it was time to get to the next role. And that's really important and critical when you start to plant seeds for yourself in your career, start telling your boss where you want to go, mapping out that plan, having a sponsor, so that when you get there to that interview, you get to walk in with that confidence versus being confused and maybe even a little timid.
yeah. Listen, benefits of boredom. We're talking about the things that we do and can do rather when we find ourselves bored in our workplace, and actually boredom in our lives. Don't let as they say, that idle mind become the devil's workshop and it not be productive, but leverage your opportunities that come with boredom. You know, I've got notes after notes after notes. Again, the benefits of boredom include increased knowledge. As you are curious, you learn about the different pieces of the business, more relationships, right? Because as you expand and increase, you have to go to different people to learn about what they do. Purpose, we talked about how purpose is the foundation and passion is expressed through purpose. I love the way you put that. And this big, you know, whopper of a gold nugget around your professional brand investors, right? You are a PBI after having been an IPO, that we can shift and throughout our career in our life,
Exactly.
different IPOs. So we will have to find different investors. And most certainly the part that you talked about just now around, you know, building that brand that leads to advocates, because your work is so great and you know, built a community of people around you to support you.
Well, you know, to your point, when you talk about, you know, your personal brand investor and having other investors, you start building your brand early on and people don't know who you are and you establish yourself. But having those personal brand investors means people start coming to you for jobs,
Yes.
right? And that's a different game, a whole nother game. You get a call and they say, hey, I have an opportunity. I want to do this. I think you'd be a great fit. Will you think about it? And when you now get to have a choice in your career, in the opportunities, in where you go next, it's in your hands. And that's an ultimate sweet spot, right? Being in that referral status that she's the one, he's the one, after you've scaled yourself, after you use those little gaps of boredom to challenge yourself, it's amazing. It's a good place to be.
It's an amazing place to be, and obviously you've mastered getting to that place, right? You've mastered it. But you're right, when the leaders begin to come to you, and it's not always the leader, it's someone, it could be someone on the team, a peer, it could be an HR partner that knows that, wow, you've done all these great things, but you're still continuing to move and ebb and flow and adjust and adapt to change, because we're in an environment of COVID-19, right? We have so many external things affecting how we show up at work. We have the social justice movement. We have COVID-19 pandemic. We have people trying to, you know, figure out, how do I work from home and teach my kids what they're
Yeah.
supposed to learn. I mean, there's so many things. And so as you just spoke about so well and so eloquently, I, I just want to know, none of our careers are storied and perfect, right?
Right.
What is an example of a time where the boredom, led not to just a great outcome, but you learned something more about yourself as a result of maybe pursuing the benefit of boredom?
Yeah. Yeah, you really want me to just to come in with the truth. So, you know what? Sometimes boredom happens and you start looking around and you get kind of complacent and you end up just challenging your own beliefs in yourself. And you know where your strengths are, but everyone has blind spots, everyone has weaknesses. And life can kind of sometimes make you check out. And so those external circumstances, the ones that I've gone through, divorce, death of a parent, children growing up and going out of the house and getting out of the nest and having to relinquish my control of them, right? You'll end up finding out really quickly if you're checked out. You'll end up seeing that you're messing up a little bit at work. You may not be showing up prepared. You may be coming in a little late, leaving a little early, really not being on your A game. But for me, when all those things kind of start mixing and I'm kind of checked out and I'm not really utilizing boredom for its purpose, I start complaining. And I'm complaining to everybody, my mama, my sister, my friends, my coworkers. I can't believe he said this, she said this, she thinks all of that good
Everybody
stuff.
else is the problem.
Everyone else is the problem. But really and truly what I'm doing is I'm finding an excuse for me not being at the level that I normally operate with. And I've reduced myself to accept where I'm at that time because it's going to meet my momentary needs. And so the complaining justifies everything else. And what I ended up doing is I just see problems instead of who I naturally am, is to see problems and find the solutions for it. That's the person that I am. And so once I realize I'm complaining, I have to kind of do some self-introspection and say, am I complaining and is it correct? And is there really a problem in a solution? Or am I complaining because I have an internal weakness and I'm afraid because I'm challenged in an area in my life where I don't really know and I feel exposed, naked, vulnerable. And so instead of trying to find the solution, because I really don't know what it is, I'm just going to complain about it.
Wait, a whole nother layer you just dropped on us. A lot of times that negative benefit of boredom is because there's some insecurity, some uncertainty, some lack of knowledge.
Yes.
Right? Well, I mean, that's gold times gold for those that are listening. We tend to, as you said, point outward. They're the problem. My manager sucks. This job sucks. But there's really something internally going on inside of us where we either, as you said, we don't know, we don't feel we're sufficient, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Usually goes back to a lack of knowledge, right?
Yes.
Because if you know your stuff, you know your stuff. So what do you do with that? Like, what do our listeners do when they...
So first time when you know you're uncomfortable, like when you're uncomfortable, there's a problem. You got to ask yourself, why? Why am I uncomfortable? What is this person, this feeling, this thing, this event, this manager making me feel? And then the next question is why, right? I feel inadequate because this person just started and I've been here 7 months and they've only been here 1 month and they're changing things up that I've done. So to your point, it's a lack of knowledge. Someone came in with more creativity than me. Wait a minute, I'm the girl. I'm the one that came in with creativity. And instead of complaining and pointing and sitting down and getting in a rut and allowing your boredom to fester, you partner, you ask questions, you learn, you say, what did you do to do that? That's really nice. And then you take that back and you learn it. And then there's 2 people on the team that are resourceful in this one skill versus one and another one who's complaining, right? So you end up maximizing the business's resources by learning a new skill. But you got to be willing to say, I don't know. You got to be willing to say, I don't know, and ask, or say, I'm going to find out.
Well, you're asking us to lay our heart out on the line when we say, I don't know, because aren't we supposed to know? Isn't that why they hired us? Aren't we? We're supposed to have all the answers, Kristol.
I think that's what everyone thinks, but you and I both know, because we've had this type of conversation, and even me coming from the roles of supportive roles and then moving up into a leadership role and being exposed to those conversations. And I'm like, oh, y'all don't know? Oh, this is a planning meeting? Even I, just recently in my role, there was a meeting that my boss wanted me to schedule. He's like, let's have this meeting. Let's talk about this event we're going to have in 3 months. I came to the meeting prepared with the deck 3 months in advance. And they were like, this was the brainstorming meeting. We didn't expect you to put it together. And in my mind, I thought I had to have it ready, but I was guessing at every expectation. And he was like, it's not that. No one's asking you to have it. This meeting is to decide what we want to say in 3 months.
Wow.
And so you're here to take notes and to listen and then design. But that was pivotal and game changing for me, because I always thought I had to show up ready. And I always thought being ready meant having something. Sometimes being ready is just having pen and paper.
Right.
And having an ear to hear and to start to formulate.
Kristol.
Sorry, I know, this is great.
You are going to help so many people by freeing them from the need to know. You don't need to know everything. Be curious about wanting to know what you don't know. That example about going into a meeting to discuss an event in 3 months, and you coming to the meeting with the deck built out, and your leader saying, we didn't expect you to do that. This is the brain. I love that scenario. How did that make you feel when you?
Well, look, number one, I spent a lot of time on that deck, a lot of time. And so at first I was pissed. And what ended up happening, and everyone was like, well, where'd this come from? Where did all this, like, who's saying this? And I'm just like, I'm guessing. And what I had to scrap the whole thing. I had to start over, whole blank sheet. But it was such a great learning curve for me, because it freed me, to your point, of that expectation that I put on myself that was unrealistic. I had to ask myself, why do I think that they would expect me to know what to say in 3 months when we've not had one conversation?
Wow.
Like, that's not fair to me. I was being unfair to myself.
Yes.
Right? Yes, I am going to be the collaborator and the creator of putting all it together, but I haven't had one word with them, right? And so it made me feel real mad. It made me feel a little stupid, because my boss clearly was like, girl, what are you doing? Like, we haven't
to do all of this? Yeah.
But I was willing to say, okay. And it's helped me now in running other projects by saying, we're going to have this meeting. I'm coming to this project, and it's a blank sheet of paper. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, and everyone's like, well, what about this? And what are we going to do with this? And I can freely say, I don't really know. So-and-so person, what do you think? So-and-so person, what do you think? Let's collaborate together, and let's get the best possible answer, knowing that we really don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if it's not what we want, we can shift for the next project, right? And so it's freed me up to really take that perfectionism that I put on myself all the time and kind of throw it out the window and say, it's okay.
It is okay. And I'm going to borrow that in the future with some of my coaching and consulting sessions. We're going to have a BSP session, yeah. Blank sheet of paper. Don't come in here thinking you know it. We're going to discuss it. But we do that so often in life with our personal relationships, right? That starts really at home, because people expect us to know and do and be. We go into the workforce with that same mentality.
Well, what you stand to do if you try to know when you don't know is that you look knowledgeable until they find out that you're not. And so what you do is you end up discrediting your own self versus saying, I don't know, let me go find out. And then when you come back, you look like a resource now. You look like someone who can go find an answer and come back, bring it back, and it works. And then you get to tell yourself, I learned something new today, right? And you get to give yourself that time and the chance to learn and research and maybe even bring more back to the table than what you would have if you would have given a half-ass or out of your ass answer, right?
Good. We need to hear that. So where did that sense, because I'll say as an African-American man, early in my career, being the first, to graduate college, first to be in corporate America, first to start a business, I thought the right thing to do or the expectation was that I needed to know it all. So for you, where did that sense of having to know it all come from? And did being, a dynamic, strong, amazing Black woman have anything to do with it? Or was that just icing on the cake?
Thank you. So I think it probably stems from young age, just wanting to have this perfectionism, wanting to know everything, which was part of what fueled my boredom creativity. And as I went through my career, wanting to learn more and to know it all, had nothing really to do negatively as, trying to fuel myself as a Black woman or a woman in the industry. I just had that curiosity, right? And so that's just naturally what was in me. But it's a benefit because there are a lot of people out here of color who struggle with getting the recognition, the validation, because they have to check off so many different boxes for someone just to get into a certain, career, field, industry, role where other people may not. Thankfully for the industry that I'm in and the company that I work for, they've allowed me and my work to speak for itself. And that's a beautiful place, right? To be able to be in an environment where they do that. For me, what drove me was vacations, acting lessons, football games, parties, holidays, all that kind of stuff fueled me to work harder, to learn more, to utilize the tools that I learned from my parents who were very, very, very hardworking people. My dad worked for General Motors for over 35 years. My mom's been working at her company for about 36 years, and she has her own small business, right? So I didn't just happenstance on that. Like me and my sister both will be calling each other at a certain late time and you working? Yeah, I'm working. Girl, we need to stop. Mom and dad like totally ruined us. But yeah, sometimes you will have those roadblocks, right? You're gonna have people who are gonna have unrealistic expectations on you, or maybe even unconscious biases, right? For who you are as a person, and even stereotypes, thinking that because of your color, that you can't do something because the world has said it. And what you have to do, my main thing that I would say is to be patient and to allow your work to speak for itself. Let your work show up for you. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to address everything. Your work will show up and it will be credible in the time that it needs to be. I've had a bad boss for a year to a year and a half, and I just continued to work. And when it was time, I got offered another role and I left. And then my work that spoke for myself, that ultimately spoke for my boss, once I left and my work left, my boss's work and her adequacy was very clear, or let's say inadequacy. And so, so it happened in its own time. And sometimes you'll be there to see it, and sometimes you won't. But all you have to do is live a life of integrity, a work life of integrity, and everything else will flesh itself out in its own time.
Wow. as much as I don't want to, I feel like that's the sweetest, best place to stop. We're gonna have to have another conversation because I believe in respecting people's time, and when
Yeah.
you get dropped a Mount Rushmore of gold, as you've dropped on me and our listeners today, Kristol, you have to pause and take it all in. Because you said so many great things when it comes to the benefit of boredom, and I loved how you really brought it all together. Um, Let patience have her perfect work.
Yes, as you know.
Have her perfect work. And so if we don't waste the boredom and let it just be idle time, right? If we use it to be curious, if we use it to increase our knowledge, if we use it to expand our relationships, if we use it to plant seeds, build our brand, our professional brand investors. Again, I
Yes,
love that. That's got to be in the book. That's got to be in the book. We will have more opportunities than we will be able to actually receive. That's when you create opportunities for others,
yes, 100%.
right?
100%. That's when you start to move up and you look at all the things that you've done, you end up learning some skills and looking for that next person to bring with you and letting go of the knowledge that you have and sharing it with someone else. And that's when you start teaching and training because the business is going to need it. Everything changes. You're not going to be where you are at all times. Life happens. And so one thing that I think is very critical is always to be ready to leave and to be ready to have someone in your spot, right? I was very big on when I knew I was going to go somewhere else, I was already recruiting for someone to take my spot. Because when I talked to my boss and I knew I was ready, I wanted to have a resume in front of him and say, this person is going to be gold and I know why and I'm going to vouch for them. And so I was very big and strategic, which made the decision very easy for my boss as well. So he could let me go
Yes, yes.
as well.
Talking true leadership, leaders have a succession plan at all times. One, if I decided to leave. Two, if I was asked to leave. Three, if I was asked to do another job, who's going to take my place? Who is she? Who is he? And demonstrate how have you coached, developed, and given them the exposure that they've needed to build the relationships, somewhat of the knowledge that you pass down to immediately be able to step into your role. That succession planning is huge.
It is.
All the benefits of boredom that you just talked about lead to you being able to put someone else in position.
Yep, it does. It really does.
Wow. Kristol, there are a few questions as I reluctantly wrap with you today that I ask all my guests.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask what's one thing, so you can be thinking about this, that you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
All right.
But rapid fire, 3 questions.
I'm
What
down. I'm ready.
you ready? You ready?
Yep.
All right. What is currently informing you?
Oh, okay. This is probably not a good thing. Right now, I'm using Twitter because of COVID-19 and quarantine. Everything when you turn on the TV, it's so extreme on so many levels. I've kind of turned off the TV, turned on social media, and I've started following some funny people to just bring some levity to my life. I just got to do it.
Love it.
But outside of Twitter, I'm reading some books, whether it's self-help for me personally or professionally. Sometimes it's a fiction or a biography, so I can learn from someone else's life. And then I'm studying for certifications for work, as well as certifications to advance my own personal brand for my own self in general.
We're launching a new IPO soon. I can't wait.
Yeah.
The second thing is, what inspires you?
My inspiration comes from people. It's very simple. I know I have a compassion for people. I felt that early on as a kid watching certain commercials of people or dogs or animals, or watching a movie and someone's sick and my heart just feeling just strained. So my passion is people, and I have a compassion to help people where they are and hopefully to get them to a new level and to help someone else bring them up.
Awesome. Last question. What empowers you?
What empowers me is my legacy, right? That's what really and truly, my father passed away about 8 years ago, but he's left a huge legacy. And it's made me really think of what's going to be said when I'm not here anymore. What am I going to leave? What will be the trace of Kristol on this earth? And what would people say about me at my funeral, right? I know it's a little morbid to think of that, but I don't want a Tyler Perry drama. I don't want a fight breaking out. You want people saying she left us with these types of nuggets and she was this person. And hopefully it lives on between the kids that I have, as well as the people that I encounter on a daily basis.
Nice. Last question. What piece of advice or thought would you like to leave with our listeners today?
I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to remind everyone that there is a blessing in your boredom. And when you realize that and realize when you have that time, there's a blessing there, tap into it.
Kristol, I am so honored and grateful that you were able to be a guest on Corporate Dropout Conversations today. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversations, as I always do.
Same here, same here.
And I know our listeners have been inspired. I know they've been informed and empowered because of what you've shared around the benefits of boredom. If anyone wants to contact you, because I got a feeling that they will, how can they reach you, Kristol?
So they can reach me at the Kristol Johnson on Instagram, which is just the KristolJohnson, or you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn under my name as well, Kristol Johnson.
Awesome. Awesome. Kristol, thank you so much again. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Corporate Dropout Conversations, where we want to inspire, empower, and inform you to live your most amazing personal and professional life. Until we talk again, do something good for yourself so that you can do something great for others.
Have a good one.
Bye.
That was so good.